Welcome to Cheery Conversations, where we all overcome our uncertainties on juicy topics, one conversation at a time. Each week we sit down with author, speaker, and pastor Sonny Hennessy and a special guest. This week our guest is Courtney Ford. She is a mom to two kiddos, Layton and Oakley, and she and her husband Chase co-own CrossFit One Shot in Howard. Her mission is to inspire confidence in everyone she meets. Today we're going to be talking about being a business owner and how to shut it off when you get home. So we're talking about boundaries of work and personal life, not exercise, because I might not watch if it was about how to get more exercise. So hang with us, and but you are a business owner of CrossFit, and I'll be honest, when I think of CrossFit, I think of a gang, because I feel like people who are in CrossFit love it, and they like have their CrossFit t-shirts and mugs, because like if you work out
and good thighs,
because if you work out at the Y, you're not really sporting the YMCA
no,
t-shirt
you're not
stuff.
a gang of YMCAers.
No. So I think it's so cool, like it's like a lifestyle, and I think it's awesome. So how did you get involved in CrossFit and then become a co-owner?
Yeah, I was working out. I was like a YMCA workout girl.
We're sorry, YMCA.
I think I lived in San Diego, so it was technically a 24-hour experience or something like 24-hour fitness. But I had just got done training for a marathon, was completely strung out on running, and decided that I needed to change up. And so I found CrossFit by driving down the coast in San Diego, and
that's a rough drive.
Really crazy side note is there was one gym that I was going to go to. I was like on my way on the coast driving to it, and literally had like this crazy intuition of like turn around, like just turn around. And so I did, and a couple days later I found another CrossFit studio, and it's actually where I met my husband, James.
Yes.
So,
and you're owners together.
Yes, yeah.
Which, once you came back to Green Bay where you're from,
yes,
you coached here where I met you.
Yep.
Because you were my coach.
I was your coach.
And she was really good.
You were in a game.
Not yet. No,
you were in a game.
This is really great for
really
CrossFit.
great.
Yes. You know what? Who doesn't want to be in a gang?
Yeah.
I mean, juicy topics. Let's talk about that. Okay, so you were my coach. You had knee surgery and had a huge brace.
Yes.
And you met Sean and I, and you were mean as heck to us. But then I fell in love with her because she was so sweet, even as she bossed me around. But then you and Chase went on to, how long ago did you open CrossFit One Shot?
It was 6 years in January.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So 6 years, that's a long time to like be a business owner. You've probably learned a lot.
We have.
But you probably still have questions about being a business owner, especially when you own it with the person you live with and spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you find that are you really good at having those boundaries of personal and work, or is that something you're still trying to refine?
Definitely still trying to refine. Especially when you start to throw kids in the mix too. Like you really have to try to separate your time. But I guess my question to you is how long, like when was the deciding factor of you and Sean where you're like, whoa, we need some boundaries now?
Well, when Sean told me quit talking about work at home.
Step one.
So step one, I don't know if Chase tells you that or you tell him. Hopefully one of you wants
It's usually me, it goes both ways, to be honest.
I think it's that accountability that, okay, I don't need to talk about this, but usually it's Sean saying to me, okay, like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. But at the same time, he loves what he does. And I think you guys love what you do. And, you know, probably if you hate what you do, you shut it off when you get home.
Right.
But it's when you love what you do. And it encompasses everything. I mean, you guys are more than CrossFit. You're about the health. I know from knowing you guys about mind, body, soul, about your emotional health and your physical health, all of it. And it's hard to shut that off because you're living it at home and you're living it at the gym. So I think time, like a time at night, or this is when we get home, and that could change per day. I mean, you guys have night classes.
Right.
So really, where is it maybe between that it's from 11 a.m. or noon when you get home until 4, that you have some days you have to work on work, and there's some days that's your Sabbath or your rest.
Right.
I don't know, have you guys done that yet? Or
Yeah, we have. And it's funny, like now I feel like within the last probably like 6 or 7 months, we've established a better routine with you know, now we have Oakley, our 7-month-old, and Clayton's in school for a few days a week. So it's definitely like Wednesday nights are our family days.
Nice.
That's like non-negotiable. We're not at the gym. I think the hardest thing for us is when, you know, Chase is at our facility from 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock at night, and he comes home and is just all like, you know, and I'm like, whoa, I'm in mom mode. Like, I'm not in business owner mode. And there's that entrepreneur mind of like, oh, but I want to be there with you, but I'm not. Like, I just gave our kids a bath or wiped my kid's butt, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Juicy topics.
Like,
I mean,
like I'm not in business owner mode right now.
Right.
So
We came up with a code word. Actually, it didn't have to do with when to shut it off. When
What?
we used to argue more.
what's your
Our code word was rhubarb.
Okay. Rhubarb.
Rhubarb. And it was always like, we're now fighting about something that doesn't have anything to do with the conversation. We're just, and it was like, we have to, because we could say stop, okay, done, you know, but we're both so similar that we would just keep going or want the final word. And so rhubarb, we didn't use it perfectly, but it was kind of like when we said that, it was like, we are pulling out the like jump cord, like we've got to stop.
Right.
And I do wonder if people had, one, the schedule, like we know Wednesday nights, he's gonna come home, or that's the family night,
Yep.
but maybe Tuesday nights he comes home and he's so excited that, you know, okay, this is our rhythm. And if classes change, I think about this, if life changes, if our kids' school schedule changes, then our season changes, and now we have to relook at our calendar. And I think our calendar runs us, our work runs us, but we can run them. Like, I can put in my calendar family night, which we have Tuesday night family night. So we went to Texas Roadhouse. Had we not had that in our calendar, we all wanted to be home. In fact, a lot of times we try to say, do you just want to go home? But we know we'll all 4 go to different parts of the house. That's not good.
That's not family night.
That's not family night.
Right.
It's worth the money to go to Texas Roadhouse, or worth the money to rent a movie on Hulu or something, because we've put it in our calendar. So I think it's working your calendar, and then when the schedule changes, you know, we're gonna rework when's family night, when's let's talk about it. And I think it keeps everybody accountable. And I share my invite to family night with Sean.
Okay, so do you do like Gmail calendar or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it seems weird to say, Sean, I'm inviting you to family night and I'm sitting next to you.
But he needs, and I'm sitting next to you.
Yeah, like I just sent you an invite. Will you accept?
And this is your seating
Yes,
seating
yes,
arrangement.
Yes, call into this conference call number.
Yeah.
Like, but if you work together, you already kind of get that. So you just have to, I like to outsmart myself.
Right.
Because I know that I will not turn off. Some people who work at home, and I think you guys have a little of that.
Right.
I've heard of this before. You actually shut the door to your home office at a certain time.
That's
either
great.
every night or one night, a couple nights a week. And I thought that's super smart.
That's great. So like we don't really have an office, but for us it would be like, okay, I'm putting away my laptop, my planner, gets tucked away in my backpack or wherever it is, because then it's not easily accessible.
Yeah.
But really, like for us, we don't have the issue with like tucking that stuff away. It's like talking in conversation.
Yeah.
We'll be parenting, and then all of a sudden, you know, a text message pops up from somebody, or a Facebook or something, social media, where we've gotten to the point where we've turned those things off, like so we don't receive those
Yes.
notifications. Another thing I was just thinking of was, I was going to ask you, and then I realized that we kind of did this to you and Sean, but biggest thing for us is date night, like turning it off during date night.
Yes,
and
not
like,
to go to date night talking about
no,
work.
and like there's
Yeah.
times where we'll be out at Vintage Cantina, and it's like we get done with our date and we're like, we just talked about the gym the entire time, like, you know. So there's definitely there's moments for that, but a couple years ago, do you remember we went to Angelina's?
Yes.
And
you
brought
pulled out your
questions. We brought questions.
Sean and I were a little like a most awkward date ever. Where he's like, I've got some questions. We're like, what? But it was
otherwise
great.
we would have talked about the church. We would have talked about our gym, like business ideas and things like that, which there's times and place for that, but like we really wanted to date you guys.
So weird. And it was like, what's your favorite, what was it?
I don't even
car
remember, but it
or
was
animal.
And they were like thorough questions where
Yes.
you were like, wow, I've never been asked this before.
And you've done that with just you and Chase.
Oh yeah, like I have something in our top drawer of our bathroom where it's like go-to questions where if we're headed out for date night and I'm like, man, I just need my husband tonight.
Yeah.
I'll bring him and I'll pull him out and be like, oh gosh, you've got the questions.
Yes.
But then they just it rolls from one into the next.
Well, and I think people who aren't business owners that work together or they don't work together, the same thing can be true about kids, right? You just kind of mentioned that. Yeah. I think one of the things Sean and I would do is when our kids were little, we're like, we need to get away. We need to have time, just us. Then we'd get to the restaurant and we'd sit and talk about Isaiah and Aubrey and their diaper schedule, and oh my gosh, and then they fell asleep watching The Lion King again, and pretty soon we're like missing them,
right?
Which is great. You go away, you miss your kids, that's good. We still talk about our kids when we're away from them, and it seems we love them more when we're away from them. We're like, they're so cute. But there is also turning that off, that we have a life outside of just talking about our children. And I love the question thing, but I think if you don't have it written down, you put it in your phone. I think it's a great tip. Yep. Or have in your head, you know what, let's talk about like next year, where do we want to go on vacation? And let's just talk about some top 5 places we'd love, and we know 4 of them we can't afford, but then we can like talk about that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
I did too. Rhubarb and question cards.
Yes.
Like there's way more of this to come. So we're gonna take a quick break from this conversation, but hang on tight because when we come back, we're gonna continue talking about how to manage work and home. Welcome back. We're here with Sonny and Courtney, and we've been talking about the boundaries of work life and home life. And Courtney, you mentioned something earlier about social media and notifications and how it's important to manage those.
Yeah. How do you manage that with your employees, reaching out to you? Where's the boundaries in that?
I think that shutting off at home, it is required that notifications don't come to your phone. Here's my thought. During the day when I'm working, I need to check all of the places that people could communicate with me. Yep. I do an auto reply on Facebook now that says, we'll get back to you within, thanks for your message, I'll get back to you this week or within a week. But also, like, you can go into, I think people don't realize, and it's especially important for business owners or people who manage people, that those are turned off. Facebook, Instagram, and not just those, but email. Like right now, my email doesn't have a little red bubble that comes up. I do the forced push notification that unless I go to my email, it doesn't fetch.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because if I see 6 bubbles, I know those are new. I gotta handle them.
I'm the same way.
Sean doesn't have to handle them right away. I do.
Yeah, I can't handle that.
So then what happens is I'm getting that at 8 p.m. I see it, I open it, and then he doesn't want to handle it at 8 p.m. But I'm like, we need to address this because it's urgent. And then I put that on him. And so huge that all notifications are off. I check texts you're gonna get.
Right.
So then on how do you manage that with customers and employees? I think it's important they know this is the time I shut off. And for your staff, for your employees, they could know this is the day on Monday, this is the day on Tuesday, that you're not going to hear back from us. Yeah. Because they do know that if it's probably an emergency, they'll be calling. Yeah. How many times now do we go, this person's calling, I better take it.
Me? Yes.
Who calls people?
Yes.
So I think that's a huge step in creating good boundaries.
Okay. So leading into that, as a business owner yourself, what are some of the qualities you look for in an employee?
In an employee. Very good question. One that can work well with Sean and I because we are the owners. And I have to always, and as business owners, we have to remember we're going to be standing when they go.
Right.
So I'm not going to just look for someone who's the most qualified, who will do the job the best. I'm looking for the person because that person has to be someone who's maybe already knows Sean and I, because they're going to realize we're a lot of personality. And I would say entrepreneurs, business owners, they're big personalities because they have that kind of persona where it's like, I believe I can build something.
Yes.
So it's a big personality. So you have to know that people already like you, people already can handle you, that they understand.
Already can
I have 2 bosses. Like if an employee can't handle two bosses, they're gonna hate working for someone where there's two bosses. Sean handles some things, I handle some things, and then some things we 100% handle together. And if I know or I can sense an employee's like, well, I just don't even know who to answer to. Or in an interview, like, so if they're asking questions like, so who would I directly report to? And it's all about direct report. The thing about Sean and I know Chase and you enough, and a lot of our listeners and viewers will be this way. You have to know yourself enough to know what you're looking for that will have good chemistry, but also you have to know the things that are red flags if they were said.
Right.
Like, I don't like change, but I'm a hard worker. Oh my gosh, like, we're changers.
Yes.
We change everything all the time. And not just for the sake of change, but big visionary. If they want to know details before we make the next step, like, we'll work through that. So I think you have to, it's not selfish to know what works for you, because you don't want to put somebody in a bad position working for you where you're making their life miserable. It's better to just not have them.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they're making your life miserable.
Yeah. Basically
Right?
that too. It's kind of stinky.
Yeah.
That's so good. So you are both business owners, and you are both business owners with your spouses. So what I've heard through this conversation a lot was communication. It's key. So how do you and Sean communicate your boundaries? And you and Sean have different boundaries, and how does that work?
Yes, we do. We create boundaries and talk about our boundaries when we are not in a heated conversation. This is marriage advice. The worst thing is to come up with a new plan in the middle of a heated conversation. If you're fighting and you're like, well, I need Tuesday nights. Well, like, that's probably not going to work out. But if it's okay, let's go on a date. And here's the other thing. If we always think about our spouse first, I think about what fuels Sean. So he's learned Mondays off really help him to then have a day before he gears up for the next Sunday. If I am planning stuff on Monday, because I'm like, it's not really work, it's just going to lunch with so-and-so, but he doesn't get to just shut down, then I'm wrecking his boundaries. I'm stepping into his boundaries. So we establish, and I listen and I think about Sean in everything that I do after we've set boundaries, and we set the boundaries in a very calm format. If I know that Sean needs to watch a guy movie on Monday that I would never watch, it's good for him to take Monday, and maybe Monday morning he watches that and I don't step on that. But maybe if I want to talk about new boundaries, talk about the new boundary plan for this season, Monday afternoon or Monday night when he's refreshed and full and not in a bad place. And I think the reverse is true. He thinks about what I need, and he knows I need quality time. So as much as sometimes he's like, I just still need to like finish my sermon or work on it tonight, he can tell I need some, I call it me time. It's really Sean time.
Yep.
It's me selfing.
Yeah.
I need me time.
Yeah.
And he knows that he's got to give that. But we established that need when we weren't in a heated argument.
That's really good. That's really good. You both have had like really great tools and advice for our listeners and viewers. And this conversation isn't just for business owners. It's for anyone who works outside their home, in their home, and just needs to talk about boundaries with work life and home life. So we really hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I would love to connect directly. In fact, if you want to let me know what you want to hear on Cheery Conversations or guests that we could have, connect directly by going to sunnyhennessy.com.
Join us next week at the same time for another Cheery Conversation.